no doubt the days are ordinary days, but maybe we can shove millions of years in between verse 1 and verse 2. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and they say, and then millions of years of stuff happened. Maybe that's when Lucifer fell, and maybe there was a Lucifer's flood and so on. And in verse 2, and the earth, they'd like to translate it, the earth became without form and void. You really can't translate it that way in that context. But it turns, actually, you can't put a gap of time in between verse 1 and verse 2 because of the way it's worded in Hebrew. This is Genesis 1 in Hebrew. Hebrew reads right to left, opposite English. And so verse 2 uses a construction called a vav disjunctive. And that's where you have an and, the Hebrew word, which is also a single letter vav, which is the word for and, followed by a non-verb, like a noun, and the earth. Okay, and Baha'aretz. When you have that, that indicates that that is a comment on what came before it. Okay, so my point is verse 2, it's kind of like what we use parentheses for in English. Verse 2 is explaining verse 1, or clarifying verse 1. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, okay, so he made the earth like it is today, full of people and animals. Verse 2 is explaining, no, when God first made the earth, it was without form and void. Okay, it's a clarification of verse 1. And so you can't put time between verse 1 and verse 2 because verse 2 doesn't follow in time. It's an explanation of verse 1. Now, the rest of Genesis is vav consecutive. That's different. That's where and followed by a verb, and that does indicate a temporal sequence. And so that's where you have God creating each thing, one day after the next. But no, the gap theory has been very thoroughly refuted on that basis. What about the science? There's a lot of science that confirms